The PC gave us computing power at home, the internet connected us, and mobile let us do it pretty much anywhere. Now generative AI lets us communicate with technology in our own language using our own senses. But figuring it all out when you're living through it is a totally different story. Welcome to Leading the Shift, a new podcast from Microsoft Azure. I'm your host, Susan Ettlinger. In each episode, leaders will share what they're learning to help you navigate all this change with confidence. Please join us. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
As a contractor, I don't pay for materials I don't use. So why would I pay for stuff I don't need in my mobile plan? That's why the new MyBiz plan from Verizon Business is so perfect. Now I can choose exactly what I want, and I only pay for what I need.
Right now, with MyBiz plan, get our best price, as low as $25 a line. Visit Verizon.com/business to get started today. Price per month with 5+ lines. Includes autopay and paper-free billing and special intro offer discounts. Taxes, fees, economic adjustment charge, and terms apply. Offers end June 10th, 2025.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 343, Theatrical Rereleases. The dark side or the light side? Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the #1 place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
And Chelsea, all of my stuff is falling apart.
Wait, what?
Well, anything relating to recording the podcast is having a rough go of it. So
Aww.
The first is my computer, which for you, how long does a modern computer last nowadays?
Well, that's hard to say. So it depends on how much I've used it. But like the one when I started doing the podcast, that computer lasted me about 10 years. But it was the last like 3 years were like, kind of inching before I finally got something else.
Uh-huh.
I held out as long as I could. And then with the current computer setup that I have, I've had it for about 4 and it's doing okay. And then I have another desktop that I bought right before like 2019. So it still does well, I would say.
Yeah, mine is a 2019.
Okay.
It's a MacBook Pro. And I worked on it. I used it for 3 solid years. You know, it was editing videos. It was recording stuff, right? Wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah.
But then there were about the past 2 years, I haven't used it as much, just more basic computer processing sort of stuff. But man, the battery on this thing is terrible. Like I will charge it and I'll stick it in my computer or I'll stick it in my bag. And then when I pull it out again, it's just completely died. Like I have to push the start button to start the thing back up. And then, you know, you have to reopen all of your programs and tabs. Oh, the tabs, everything. It's just so frustrating. It's like, I put you in sleep mode. Did you not understand the assignment? You were 100% charged. What happened here? So there's that. And then my good old microphone, my ATR 2000, which sounds kind of like a Star Wars droid, is it's great and I love it. And it's a workhorse and it does the job. And I recorded in this bedroom and left it on the table. And that was my mistake. This is all my mistake. And next thing I know, children were running around with it because they love microphones. Nothing kid loves more than a microphone. And, you know, I was like, fine, they can hold on to it, whatever. No, bad, Morgan, bad. Because they ended up dropping it or throwing it and a big chunk of it fell off. And now I'm very sad. It still functions and works. I mean, I guess we should have tested our mic quality before this, but it was just an external component of like the actual handle that broke off, not anything internal. But I'm like, oh, come on. I'm limping along here. This podcast.
It's not the Shure SM58. That's what I'm sure. That one is it's the microphone that people most use on the road. Like if they're like traveling musicians, they'll use the SM58. And that one, you can drop it. It will just keep going. So that's
a true workhorse.
I have multiples of those.
Nice.
Just for those reasons.
So, yeah, we need to get our Patreon back up, I guess, so I can maybe invest in a new microphone. But at the same time, I'm like, it's fine. It does the job. Like, I don't need a new microphone. I don't need to be looking like Joe Rogan over here with a microphone that no one sees, right? I just need a microphone that works. And, I just did super glue it, and it's popping in one of the places. So, but that's not what our topic is about today. Our topic today is about theatrical re-releases. Now, this is a really, really fun one, and we're going to be talking about, is this a good thing when they bring these films back to theaters, or is it a bad thing? So stay tuned.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
All right, so the reason I really wanted to talk about this for our Nerdy Couch discussion, how many years into this and we still don't have a theme music for Nerdy Couch discussion segment? But, so I actually have gone to 2 different theatrical re-releases over the past 2 weeks. Oh. And they are both 20th anniversary re-releases. So the first one I went and saw with my sister, my mom, my sister-in-law, and my niece. And we saw the 20th anniversary of the 2005 Joe Wright version of Pride and Prejudice. Classic.
Nice.
Love it.
Nice.
I've watched that so many times. I saw it in theaters. I was excited to see it again. So there was that one. And then the week after, I was a single rider and I went and saw Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, which is also the 20th anniversary of that one. That is the episode 3. And really fun experience. So before we talk about like whether this is good or whether this is bad, there's arguments on both sides. But as a fan of both of these properties in 2 totally different genres.
Yeah.
It was so much fun because both of these were totally different audiences, totally different genres of films, but both have, very, very much fans for each one of these.
Yes.
And so the first one was nearly all women, although there were a few couples, and I imagine it was like a date night, crowd. They were older, like an older couple, meaning 40s, 50s. And it was nearly all packed. So it was all sold out except for 1.5 of the first 2 rows.
Okay.
So pretty impressive. I went on a Saturday night, 7:30 showing.
It's a great date night.
Yes, perfect. And then the other one was Revenge of the Sith. And I remember seeing this. It was our senior year. And it wasn't the last day of school, but it was one of those like pseudo last day of schools. Like this is the last official day of school. And there's like this fake last day of school, but no one actually goes to the last day of school. But so it was one of those. And I remember it was the last like full day of school. I get out. My friend Britton had given me a Jedi robe, a black Jedi robe, and I wore it to school. And I'm like not even like that's my first Jedi experience, right? I guess it was a Sith robe in this case. And I did my makeup like kind of orangey red. I had this cool eyeshadow and I did it all around my eyes to kind of give that Sith vibe. And then we all went to the theater after school and we waited in line until the midnight showing. And it was just such a fun experience. Like I very distinctly remember. That was like the one thing I probably remember from that last week of school, other than like graduation and some of those other big things. It was like, no, we went and saw Revenge of the Sith, and it was a midnight showing.
Graduation,
and, right? And so, anyways, so there's that experience where it was a lot of hype, for the first one when you saw it the first time. But this time, I've definitely seen this movie tons of times since. We have what the sequel trilogy was, and everyone has their opinions on that. But this had people dressed in robes, people with lightsabers. There were clearly people who had never seen the movie before because there was a girl next to me who was like shocked by certain scenes, which I thought was very interesting. But my theater was completely sold out except for 3 seats, and that was a 7 p.m. showing on Friday night, which was the first night.
Nice, okay.
So I don't know. It just got me thinking about re-releases, and so if we go to this and we talk about, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing?
We cannot forget when you and I went and tried to rewatch the entire Twilight series on theaters,
Oh, yeah. But that wasn't a re-release. That was just a special engagement done by the local theater.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the differences that we're talking about.
Yes, so there's a distinction. So there's going to be the local theaters that they get the rights and they're able to put it on for a week.
Okay.
Or like a weekend or something.
Or like
these are summer,
like the summer movies.
Specials. Yeah.
Okay.
But then there's the actual, like we're doing a re-release. Like I remember seeing it for Finding Nemo 3D and Lion King 3D in 2012 when that came out. These are like certain, usually it's tied to a date, usually ending in 5 or 0. And they're going to re-release it to, get more money. Why not, right?
Milk that cow. Bessie needs to be milked.
Why not, right? Especially when you got Disney Plus that's just sucking you dry. You need to go back to a different cow that's going to, provide some sustenance. But, these aren't uncommon. These have been done for a while. Disney did this long time, with lots of their movies, especially before the home media market. They would do these re-releases, and they were really your only way that you were able to see the film. And George Lucas, notably, there was the 20th anniversaries of his film. So I remember... I specifically remember Return of the Jedi, which is episode 6, coming out in, I think it was 97. So that must have been like a 15th anniversary. No.
Yeah.
12.
I do remember 15. When those came out, yeah.
That would be 14 years because it was 77, 80, 83. Maybe it was, my numbers are off. But around that time, there was this re-release and it was a big deal. And they did, I remember I saw someone at church and they said, oh man, I obviously wasn't born when the first one came out and I was on a mission, away when the 20th came out in the 90s. And I was just so bummed because I was never really able to see them. I'm like, that's a bummer. But so anyways, this is not something that's uncommon. It's something that has been done for decades. But I think because of the landscape that is modern cinema and movie, the way that movies are distributed, it's an interesting discussion. So I wanted to pull up how these two movies have done. And so let's start with the smaller of the two, which is Pride and Prejudice. Like some people were like, I had no idea. I wish I would have known. And same girl, same. Like, I don't even know how I found out about this. It's just like, I felt like I was on Twitter and I saw it and I said, okay, yes, bookmark. Let's buy the tickets. So this one ended up doing $5.537 million over a week. Now, what's interesting? It says the release date was April 20th, which it was. It was April 20th, but I saw it on the 19th, and my theater had showings on the 18th. But when I went to look at the dailies for that, they don't show up at all as the 18th or 19th. Like, literally, it was like that movie was not playing. So I don't know what was happening here with the numbers and the books, if they just, like, lumped it all into Sunday. I don't know. But I did see it on the 19th. I can promise you that. But, so, ended up doing $1 million on that April 20th. Now, whether that's a combined weekend total or just the Sunday total, I don't know. And then, throughout the week, it did nearly $500,000. On Wednesday, for some reason, it did 944, nearly $1 million again. And even when it ended its run, or not, it hasn't even really ended its run yet, but just yesterday or on Sunday, it was still made $217,000 in the theaters, which if you were making $217,000 a day on a movie from 20 years ago that really has zero overhead, that's an amazing day. That's an amazing number. So $5.5 million for this re-release is like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Then we have the big kahuna, right? We have Revenge of the Sith, and domestically it made $25.5 million, and they also released it internationally, which made 17.7, for a grand total of $43.2 million. Crazy. Impressive, which...
Bessie's given her best day on this one.
Which is funny because this actually was not the highest grossing re-release. I believe that still went to The Lion King. The Lion King made just a couple million more. The 3D release of The Lion King, which is like, both are great movies. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Now, this one I thought was kind of interesting because the Friday numbers, it was number 2 for that day. And it did 11.4 million. And then Saturday it did less, and Sunday it did less. Did 8 million, then 6 million. And normally that's not the distribution for movies. Usually Friday is a pretty big number, but people are working. They're not able to go to all those showings. Saturday is your big number. So this one really peaked on Friday because I think so many people were just excited to see it on the day. You get this big burst of people seeing it Friday, and then a good chunk Saturday, Sunday. So big money here for re-releases. And I saw some people kind of mentioning like, oh, this is the state of modern cinema. This is terrible. And I agree and I don't, What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when it comes to giving a theater's, a little extra bump, I love it for them. Fantastic. I also do love it for the person who gets to re-experience this movie that they love in a full screen experience with other people. Because, yes, a lot of people have these giant televisions and they are far too large for their room and definitely are not spaced out properly to help their eyes. But, like, the ability to go in and have a full theater experience with, like, for example, you said that person next to you was one of those that was on their first viewing. Like, it's fun to be with those types of people. Especially if it's something that you've seen already, you're like, oh, I get to watch how you're doing. Like, how do you appreciate this? So I like the theater experience in general. So I'm going to say it's a win. And for somebody who is just looking to bask in their own nostalgia, great. Like, I don't see anything negative about this. What I do see as negative is people trying to remake the movie with modern audiences type sentiments or whatever, or go back to the series and create, a Toy Story 4, Toy Story 5. I don't like those. But to go back to the original and to be able to give that same feeling to a new batch of people, I think it's great.
Well, yeah, especially for movies that really are made for this theatrical viewing. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, it was just electric. As you were sitting there and you get to the latter half where there's the big battle on Mustafar, and it was tense and it was really, really fun. It was really exciting. And there's people that were kids that grew up watching the movies that never had the experience to see it in a real theater, and so that was a really cool moment for them and people just want to go back and see it. So one thing that I saw, and someone said, you know what, people are complaining about this, but this is actually the perfect balance for a box office. So this was the first time in a while where the films did over 20 million. The top 4 did over 20 million in the box office. So hooray that it wasn't one movie that was pulling the box office this weekend. It was a variety of movies. And they said, this is a good balance. Here's what you have here. You have Sinners, which is an original film. Obviously that one, it's in its second week and it's 45 million. It's getting tons of buzz. It's shot in, 70 millimeter IMAX. People are just raving about this movie, so it's getting a lot of attention. So that's an original film. We have Star Wars Episode 3. That's number 2, and that is a re-release. Okay, so a different type of movie for a different group. There's The Accountant 2, which is a classic sequel. Then there's a Minecraft movie, which is like an IP property sort of film, like an original film, but based on and they're like, hey, this is actually pretty good. This is kind of what you want. It has something for everyone. I mean, you could even say that a Minecraft movie is more of a family movie, right?
Right.
And so if this is indicative of the future of cinema, I think that's hopeful. I think this is a good thing. Now, will this be able to sustain? I don't know. This just happened to be one snapshot in time, but I would like to see more weekends like this. And with re-releases, you got to be careful because you can't be doing this every, 6 months, year.
Right.
Then it just really loses its charm.
Right.
You got to be careful about which ones are the ones you're putting out. But I don't think, I think it was a missed opportunity that we didn't get. They did this 2 years ago they did it last year for the first one, The Phantom Menace. And then I think 2 years ago, if they would have been on this, they should have done it for Attack of the Clones, which I love Attack of the Clones. It's not my favorite of them, but I just like it. I like Love Story. And, but that one hasn't gotten one. And people are like, dang it,
You're going on a path I cannot follow.
Well, that's this one.
Oh, okay.
That's the end of the love story right there. But yeah, it would be fun if they could see this and then do sort of a weekend thing. I really wanted to go to this last year. They re-released the extended versions of Lord of the Rings, but it was more of a Fathom events sort of thing, which Fathom events it's just like a distribution, not company, but sort of like a marketing company that does special events, and they'll do special screenings of things. And it was the extended versions of the Lord of the Rings. So one weekend it was Fellowship of the Ring, second one it was Two Towers, the third week it was Return of the King. Super cool, and I just did not get all my ducks in a row to go to that properly. But that would have been a really fun one to go see in theaters because you're having that momentum build, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought it would have been cool if they would have done one on Friday, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So you could go 3 different. But I understand logistically that might not be feasible for a lot of people. But these things make money and they're very successful, and people want to see the films that they love. I loved these films, and I don't have the same affinity for the sequel trilogy. I don't think those are good. Obviously, this nostalgia, but there's this, at least with me and Star Wars, it's like, I like Star Wars. I just don't like crappy Star Wars. I don't like modern Disney Star Wars. So you give me an opportunity to go back, and people are going to argue, say, oh, Star Wars is, the prequel trilogy is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever. I like it. A lot of people like it. Therefore, I like it significantly more than what Disney has tried to do. And therefore, I'm going to go back and see it because I'd much rather see this than that. And also what I think is so interesting is that this is available on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
There's a quote, Netflix CEO. So it's really funny because before this weekend happened, I think this was, I'm not sure which day it was. It was like the day before, the Star Wars, the Friday. The CEO of Netflix comes out. His name's Ted Sarandos. And hold on. Okay. Still sharing? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. This is pathetic. I'm trying to... Okay. It's like my computer... Let me turn my camera off. Maybe that's just hogging too much.
Okay.
Bandwidth. I need to just get this battery replaced. Oh, okay. Well, that's one thing. That's not what I wanted to do.
I mean, you don't have to share anything. We can just...
Yeah, now it's just not even pulling up. Yeah, it's just being stupid.
Okay.
Hold on.
We can both just stop and see if that makes your stuff go faster.
No. Yeah, I'm trying. It's not letting me. I don't think yours would affect it. Okay, so I'm on that. Now let's go back to my article. Netflix CEO streaming quote. Okay, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, you got removed from the thing. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so And it's really interesting that this happened, this big success of the Star Wars re-release happened this weekend. Because just a few days prior, the CEO of Netflix had given an interview. And in it, they kind of, I don't know if it was like a panel or something. It was on Wednesday, so 2 days before Revenge of the Sith came out. And they asked him, have you destroyed Hollywood? Now, that's a very Morgan question, right? Because you know my stance on Netflix and how I feel about it. And he says, no, we're saving Hollywood, with a smile. And I'll include a link to this in the show notes. But it says, Netflix is a very consumer-focused company. Okay, ignore that. Hold on. Let me scroll down. But of course, my computer's like, lame. Sorry. Trying to find it. I'm trying to find the one quote. Okay, it's like, sorry. No. Okay, maybe I should stop continually scrolling because I'm going to scroll. By the time it actually catches up, I'll be scrolled way down past. Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? I'm going to pull it up on my phone.
That'll work. I asked, how did they know to look me up my YouTube? And she said, maybe from Facebook? I'm like, okay. If you're... Okay,
pulling it up. Your internet is...
My internet?
Okay, are you there?
Uh-huh.
Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
I'm here. Are you there?
Hello? Oh. Hello?
Are you there?
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. Okay. I think I couldn't hear anything that you were saying. Oh. Hello?
Hi. Hi.
Okay.
I'm here.
I couldn't hear anything you were saying about your story. Tell me at the end.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, the Netflix CEO, 2 days before the re-release of Revenge of the Sith, he was on some sort of panel or he was giving an interview and basically said that the traditional theater experience is outdated. And they asked him this question, this like tee-off question, like, have you destroyed Hollywood? And you know how I feel about Netflix, and I very much feel that they have destroyed Hollywood with their model, that it's made it great for Netflix, but as far as the overall consumer experience and just movies as a whole, it's dwindling and declining as a result. But it's great for him, and his business model. And he says, you mentioned the box office being down. What does that say? What is the consumer trying to tell us? They'd like to watch movies at home. Thank you. And, he says that, having that 45-day window before they go back to, DVDs, rentals, VOD, that's completely out of step with the consumer experience of just loving a movie. And he goes on to say that, the Hollywood model is broken. No one wants to see movies in theaters anymore. And we're in a period of transition. Folks grew up thinking, I want to make movies on a gigantic screen, have strangers watch them play in theaters for 2 months, and people cry, and sold out shows. It just doesn't happen very much, he said. And he continued to use the word outdated, outmoded for most. If you're fortunate enough to live in Manhattan, you can walk to a multiplex and see a theater. That's fantastic. However, most of the country cannot. And basically saying that, hey, this makes it accessible, makes it good for everyone. It's just really funny. Long story short, he's totally saying nobody wants to go to the movie theaters anymore. Like, it's done. People don't go to the movie theaters. No one wants to do that. People just want to sit home in their little pod and watch a movie. They don't want to see, like, you see how demeaning that was? He's like, you want to go to a movie with strangers? Very, very demeaning attitude. However, we see the success of these 4 different movies over this past weekend in totally different genres, re-releases, sequels, whatever. And I think people do want to see movies in theaters. I think having good movies in theaters is the key.
Yes. And that is a hard thing to do, obviously. But that's the thing that like people who make movies would rather say that it is the experience that is wrong rather than what they made that is wrong. Because it's so much easier than looking in the mirror and saying, oh, people don't like what I made. Like, they just don't like, it's not that they don't like me. It's they don't like this. They don't like getting in their car. So it's just the car's fault.
Yeah. Another re-release this weekend, which my sister actually saw, was Happy Gilmore. It was the 30th anniversary of the Happy Gilmore release, and that one
let's just get all of them up there.
It did $137,000. So really nothing compared to these other 2 movies. Yeah. However, still, it was kind of like one of those. I was like, oh, that's super fun. I didn't know. I had no idea, but I think it's something to be said. Like, people want to go back and see these movies that they grew up with and they loved, and they want to see them again on the big screen. They want to have this event around it, not just. Yeah, I mean, I actually did just watch Happy Gilmore the other day. Or a few weeks ago on my, laying in bed, and it was fine and it was funny. But I think my experience would have been much improved being in a theater where I don't have my phone and I have to focus and I have to enjoy it as a semi-communal event, right? So that's my thoughts on it. I would love to know your thoughts on re-releases. Are they a good thing for the industry? A bad thing for the industry? Did you see any of these, the 3 that we talked about? I wonder if Disney is going to be doing any, animated ones. I can't think of anything currently slated that's going to be released, but I mean, they really missed the boat doing a 10th anniversary Frozen. They could have, they really could have taken advantage of that. But I think another thing that's really smart is before you have a sequel, you could do a short mini re-release of the original, especially if it's a movie that's like, for example, maybe The Incredibles, and it's been 13 years since the other one. Like, let's do 2 weeks before to get people pumped for that. I think that's a good marketing opportunity to get people excited. But yes, let us know your thoughts. Go to rotoscopers.com/343 and let us know there. You can also give us a call, 406-646-6575. And you can call us at rotoscopers.com/voicemails to leave us a voicemail. We will be compiling all of those in our big voicemail episode coming up. And this kind of leads us into our next Nerdy Couch discussion episode, which...
Ooh, what shall it be?
Which is, do people like going to see these because they've been spoiled and they know what's happening? And does that make the movie better for them? So that I'm not going to tell you what that NCD is going to be about, but it's going to be about something relating to that. So stay tuned, subscribe, and until next time, we are the Rotoscopers.
And then I'm looking up his IMDb, and I know he was in a movie called The Nude Jedi. So
what? The Nude?
New, N-E-W.
Chelsea, he's going down a path you can't follow. I don't think this is the industry you want.
Oh, it's funny.
Okay. You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks